jump in, I wanted to do. It's I think it's a bit of a crazy day here in Washington D.C. and also on the watch list. I know I'm in a little bit early, so I want to jump in before this news presser actually starts. I think this is going to be one of those big turning point days with this whole situation with the Epstein files. If you guys haven't heard, Representative Khanna and Thomas Massey, one Republican, one Democrat, have stepped forward and they have 10 of the Epstein victims out to speak out on their things they've gone through. This after a day after six of the victims spoke with folks on the oversight committee for the same issues of telling their stories. It's been a huge story. I've got that preparing now for our normal watch party time at noon Eastern. But this is happening an hour and a half before that. So I wanted to take it live with you guys. I want to watch it with you. For those of you who can be here, Marjorie Taylor Greene is standing at the podium next to Thomas Massey right now. I think they're about to get started. Ro Khanna is also milling in the area. There's tons of people behind them, news cameras everywhere, reporters going all over the place. And I'm seeing some things happening from the response, potential response from this White House and Donald Trump, who's seen in this huge cover up. If you've seen any of the things that these Congress people have been talking about since their meeting yesterday, it's going to be really bad for them. Being this White House and the folks that have continued to cover this up. Let's jump into what's happening. If you guys weren't able to see it, this is what's happening right now. I'm watching through C-SPAN. Here's Ro Khanna stepping to the microphone.
Good morning. Hello. Please, if we could, just out of respect for particularly the survivors who are going to speak, if we could have some silence. And if folks could just please calm down. People can speak when members of Congress are speaking. I just want to make sure that the victims and survivors are going to be heard today. I want to begin by thanking Brittany Henderson and Brad Edwards for their tireless work in the pursuit of justice. And I want to thank Sarah Drury on my team for working with them. Above all, I want to thank the survivors who are here today, whose courage and strength have brought us to this moment. I want to thank my co-lead, Congressman Thomas Massey, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for standing with survivors here today. Today, as you can see, we're united in restoring trust in government. We're here not as partisans, we're here as patriots. We begin the work of bringing this country together, progressives, independents, moderates, and yes, MAGA supporters, to demand truth and justice. A nation that allows rich and powerful men to traffic and abuse young girls without consequence is a nation that has lost its moral and spiritual core. Americans are asking a very simple question. How is it possible that in the richest, most powerful country in the world, there are corrupt special interest forces, both foreign or domestic, that are preventing the release, that have a stranglehold on our government and are preventing the release of the full Epstein files? There is something that is rotten in Washington. Less than 1% of these files have been released. We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. We know we have 212 Democrats and we have 4 Republicans, courageous Republicans like Thomas Massey, Nancy Mace, who was so emotional yesterday after talking to the survivors, Congresswoman Boebert, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here on the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today, we stand with survivors. We stand against big money.
Really fast, you guys. Ro Khanna is introing this. And for all those of you who are jumping in now, yes, this is a quick early watch party. I'm going to still try and do the normal one at noon. I just wanted to get this Epstein victims press conference with Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey and the rest of them here, because I think this is going to be huge. I think if this follows through after we saw some of the responses from Congress folks last night, it's going to be one of the biggest political stories that changes the way people see our government, our leadership, the elite in the country and the world, because the depths of what this seems like it was is unfathomable to I think a lot of people. Let's let Ro Khanna keep talking. Well, now
I want to
Thomas
thank
Massey.
my colleague Ro Khanna for co-leading this effort to bring transparency and justice for these victims. I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that two individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything that rose to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague, James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain. So I'm calling on my colleagues. Be one of the next two who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C. So today we're standing with these survivors. We're giving them a voice. And I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward and to tell their stories, not just of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, but anywhere in the country. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp? Are there people who are outside of the reach of the law? I don't think there should be. So hopefully today we'll get 2 more signatures on the discharge petition. That's all we need. And with that, I want to introduce the bravest woman in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I find it interesting that the 3 Republican co-sponsors are women. These are women standing up for women. And Marjorie was the first to do it. And I think she deserves all of our gratitude for breaking that barrier and leading the way for the other Republicans. Hopefully they can find their spines as well. And with that, I give you Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
So as Marjorie Taylor Greene steps up to talk about this really fast, they're talking about, in case you guys have been following how this story is going, they're talking about signing this discharge petition to get more of the Epstein files released, which most of the Republican Party is looking to block at the behest of Donald Trump, who doesn't want this done because he's covering the whole thing up. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the 3 Republican women that are part of this. I believe also Lauren Boebert, and I can't remember the third, but they'll talk to all of them soon. Here's Marge.
As a matter of fact, it's such an important issue that it should bring us all together. It's grieved me to watch the arguments and debates take place among my colleagues and even the administration. I think this is something that was worth fighting for. You see, the women behind me are going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. These are unimaginable horrors that they've lived with for their entire lives since they were very, very young. But these are also similar stories that many children, teenagers, women, and even men are enduring nightmares right now as we speak. You see, these women have been fighting since the 1990s. I heard one woman tell us yesterday since 1996, and they have carried with them shame. But I want to tell you something. The shame does not fall on these brave,
Sorry, I dislike this lady a lot. So, really fast, as this is now coming forward, and these folks are part of the signing on to get these discharge petition done, they need 2 more signatures, as Thomas Massey then said. This could be the one issue that Marjorie Taylor Greene has finally decided to go against Donald Trump on, and specifically name him on being against it. because of his blatant and cover up, which might say a lot more to how blatant this will be in many of these victims' stories that'll come forward. I recognize one or two of them already. They're there in the background, so they have been telling their stories, and I think that's a big part about this. These stories are not just now going to be told for the first time for some of these victims. They've told their stories for years. We didn't listen. We ignored it. We said, whatever, bro. Sexual assault happens. Human trafficking happens. And now that it's coming to a head because you just can't ignore it anymore, or because this administration pushed so hard to say they're going to release it before they began the cover up, now all the attention is here, and this is getting real bad.
All of the fault belongs to the evil people that do these things to the innocent. This is the most important fight we can wage here in Congress, is fighting for innocent people that never receive justice. And the women behind me have never received justice. And do you want to know why? It's because Jeffrey Epstein somehow was able to walk among the most rich, powerful people, not only in America, but foreign countries. Yesterday, I heard countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even Israel and other countries. The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth. And the truth we are demanding come out on behalf of these women, but also as a strong message to every innocent child, teenager, woman, and man that is being held captive in abuse. This should never happen in America, and it should never be a political issue that divides us. And I want to thank Khanna and Thomas Massey for doing something brave, crossing political boundaries for a very important fight. And I'm honored to join both of them. And I'm honored that Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition along with myself. And I asked my Republican colleagues not to choose just one path for justice and transparency and accountability, but I asked my Republican colleagues to choose every path for justice and accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd like to bring back Congressman Khanna to start this important press conference. Thank you very much.
Lastly, on Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm wondering if after this she signed on with this, which is great. I wonder if she's finally going to acknowledge that the guy that she refuses to name, the president of the United States, is behind all these things, these destructive, horrible things that she continues to back up. I'm just wondering.
For decades, they haven't had their voice heard. The victims haven't been heard. They haven't just been on this in the last few months. They've been doing this in the wilderness for years, and they are really models of courage. Bradley Edwards and Brittany Henderson, who are the attorneys for the victims. Thank you for being
here. Thank you, Ro and Thomas Massey. I really appreciate you putting forth this discharge petition. It's tough to understand that we have to be here because this doesn't seem like a partisan issue. This is an issue. Sex trafficking and sexual abuse transcends politics. We as Americans expect equal protection under the law, and there can be no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein received far greater protection than any of the victims that he abused for years. In 2008, Courtney Wild walked into my office because she was a part of a federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, where all she wanted was the government to talk to her. Little did she know the government had worked out a secret immunity deal for Jeffrey Epstein, and we had to file Jane Doe's versus United States of America to prove that Jeffrey Epstein worked out an illegal non-prosecution agreement with the government. That was 2008. It took us 10 years battling the government pro bono for the judge to ultimately determine that the victims' rights were violated. The government has mistreated them after Jeffrey Epstein mistreated them. We then filed civil lawsuits against Ghislaine Maxwell, which has resulted in her being in prison. Our civil lawsuits led to her prosecution. We filed lawsuits against Jeffrey Epstein, against his estate, and against two financial institutions, JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, that proved that they knowingly provided the financial infrastructure for a sex trafficking operation. Unfortunately, All of the documents and evidence that we have worked so hard to gather hide behind protective orders, confidentiality agreements, and bank secrecy laws. That is why this discharge petition is so important. While we have seen the documents, you haven't. And when you see the documents, you're going to be appalled. And the American people deserve to see everything. When you sign this discharge petition, it should mean nothing is off limits. That means the documents in the possession of the CIA should be made available. Those in the possession of the FBI going back decades should be made available. The SEC, financial records in the possession of FinCEN should be made available. Everybody knows that evil flourishes in the darkness. Corruption flourishes in secrecy. It is time right now to make a difference for the women that are behind me right now. They have been courageous and fought through this whole thing. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this one is an easy call. You're an American who cares about equal rights and equal protection under the law. If you care about these women, if you care about our country, and you care about this issue, this should pass with flying colors. I really appreciate everybody being here.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brittany Henderson, and I think in addition to thanking the wonderful congressmen and women who are here today, we need to thank the women, and not just the women who are going to speak, but the other women who are standing behind them, along with other lawyers, Sigrid McCauley, and people who have been fighting for a very, very long time for the world to give this kind of attention to an issue that it should have had forever. This administration has the opportunity to do what the past administrations did not do. This administration can either stand with the victims and stand for the victims, or it can continue to hurt the victims like has happened in the past. We aren't here just to ask for transparency, though. We're here too to ask for protection. The women here represent hundreds of other women who we have spoken to, many of whom were trafficked from other countries, from Eastern European countries where women don't have the rights that we have here. Women don't have the protections that we have here. And those women are terrified that their names will be released in these files. The government won't know that they're victims to redact and protect them. So we ask that you please, whoever is going to be in charge of redacting these files and in charge of this transparency, do it in a way that protects the women brave enough to be here, but also protects the women who are terrified that every day when they turn the TV on, something bad is going to happen to them in Ukraine, in Russia, in whatever country they live in, because no one is listening to them there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And please protect these women while we seek transparency.
Good morning. My name is Anushka DeGiorgio, and I stand before you today as a survivor of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to thank Congressman Massey and Khanna for their role in putting together this very, very important bill. Every day of this journey toward healing has come at a profound cost to my mental health. But I am here. I chose to come because this bill really matters. I speak today not only in service of my own recovery from trauma inflicted by Maxwell and Epstein, but to honor the lives, the courage and sacrifices of Virginia Giuffre, Caroline Andriano, and others who could not continue. Their voices mattered. Their stories must not be forgotten. Accountability is what makes a society civilized. Equal opportunity and equal consequence for all. Consequences are not about punishment alone. They exist to deter future harm, to protect vulnerable, and to set a standard of justice. If Ghislaine Maxwell were pardoned, it would undermine all the sacrifices I made to testify and make mockery of mine and all survivors' suffering. That is why the Epstein Files Transparency Act is so essential. It requires the Department of Justice release all the records related to Epstein and Maxwell investigations, flight logs, immunity deals, internal communications, and even the records surrounding Epstein's detention and death. And crucially, it forbids withholding documents simply because of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. This is about ending secrecy wherever abuse of power takes root. But transparency alone is not enough. Survivors need protection, resources, and legal support. If this Congress is serious about justice, then let this moment also affirm your commitment to provide victims with the legal aid they need to confront abusers, to navigate complex systems, and to reclaim their power. Transparency must be matched by support, or else too many victims will remain silent out of fear and lack of access. The statistics demand action. Nearly 1 in 5 women in America will experience rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. Every 74 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, that person is a child. These are not numbers, they are people. They are your daughters, your sons, your constituents, your friends. Statistically, 1 in 5 of your families will face this nightmare. The days of sweeping this under the rug are over. We, the survivors, say no more. I want to help create a world where survivors of sexual abuse and abuse of power can come forward safely. And I ask Congress to join me in that effort, not only by passing this bill, but by ensuring that those who step forward have legal support to face their abusers and see justice done. When Judge Berman gave Epstein survivors the chance to finally speak, the world listened. After so many years, survivors were heard. That moment was historic, and so is this moment. For me, the turning point was when I had my daughter, and on the day she was born, I knew I had a responsibility to protect her and to protect all children. I have to use my voice, the voice that had been silenced by fear and shame for so many years. Make no mistake, my polished exterior is a shield hiding a wound that still bleeds. But through this wound, I have found purpose. To be part of lasting change in how we confront exploitation and abuse. And to be clear, the only motive for opposing this bill would be to conceal wrongdoing. You have a choice. Stand with the truth or with the lies that have protected predators for decades. I am no longer weak. I am no longer powerless. And I'm no longer alone. And with your vote, neither will the next generation be. President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now and this country needs it now. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Annie Farmer, and I was 16 years old when I was flown to New Mexico to spend a weekend with Epstein and Maxwell. That same year, 1996, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to me there, along with reporting her own assault at their hands and their theft of sensitive photos of herself, of me, and our younger sister that she had taken for her work as a figurative painter. I am now 46 years old. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated, or why Epstein and his associates were allowed to harm hundreds, if not thousands, of other girls and young women. We have never been told whether those images were found when they discovered a large amount of child sexual abuse material on his property. As a psychologist, I understand that when the systems meant to protect us recreate the abuse cycle, the betrayal that occurs can be just as damaging as the original trauma. This happens when survivors of these crimes are not believed, when our well-being is not weighed as heavily as those who have more resources or more privilege, and when perpetrators of these crimes are given a platform rather than the survivors of them. For so many years, it felt like Epstein's criminal behavior was an open secret. Not only did many others participate in the abuse, it is clear that many were aware of his interest in girls and very young women and chose to look the other way because it benefited them to do so. They wanted access to his circle and his money. Their choice to align with his power left those of us who had been harmed by this man and his associates feeling very isolated. I could never have imagined being here today and this chorus of support that we have all received. I have been sent so many notes and messages from people with no direct connection to this case who've expressed their solidarity with us. And I believe that is because, in part, as Anushka explained so well, this is an extremely widespread issue of child sexual abuse, of sexual exploitation, of sexual violence. This affects almost every family in some way. From my conversations with women in these last few days and from all of the support that we've received, it's very clear to me that we are not going away, we are not going to be quiet, and we are not going to give up. And I ask the American public to stand with us and not give up. At a time with record high levels of distrust in our institutions and a perception that there are two Americas, one for those with power and privilege and one for everyone else, passing this Epstein transparency bill is one important step that can be taken to prove to Americans that the government does not side with sexual perpetrators. A thorough public review of this information is an important step in preventing the type of systemic failures that have occurred in this case and harmed all of us. An important step towards healing for those involved. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for being here today on this very powerful and special day for all of us here. My name is Marina Lacerda. I was minor victim 1 in federal indictment of Jeffrey Epstein in New York in 2019. I was one of dozens of girls that I personally know who were forced into Jeffrey's mansion on 9 East 71 Street in New York City when we were just kids. Today is the first time that I ever speak publicly about what happened to me. I never thought that I would find myself here. The only reason that I am here is because it feels like the people who matter in this country finally care about what we have to say. As an immigrant from Brazil, I feel empowered knowing that the little girl struggling to get by at 14 and 15 years old finally has a voice. For the first time, I feel like I matter as an American. I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend of mine in the neighborhood told me that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. Jeffrey assistant Leslie Groff would call me and tell me that I needed to be at the house so often that I ended up dropping out of high school before 9th grade. And I never went back. From 14 to 17 years old, I went and worked for Jeffrey instead of receiving an education. Every day I hoped that he would offer me a real job as one of his assistants or something important. I would finally have made it big, as, like we say, the American dream. That day never came. I had no way out. I was, until he finally told me that I was too old.
This has happened with C-SPAN before from you guys. Hold 1 second. That victim was still in the middle of speaking. I'm going to bring this back up. I don't know why it ended so abruptly. Hold. Here we go. It said it ended, but it definitely did not. Give me a couple more seconds. But as I was saying, right in the middle of this press conference with the victims, I think 9 to 10 of the Jeffrey Epstein victims, as they're and also these Congress folks are trying to push this Epstein discharge petition to get more people to sign on to release all the files. What you're hearing from some of the Republicans that are saying it's already been released is not the case. Sorry, you guys. Here she is. We are back. Let me reshare this for you.
Back together, but I don't have any of it. And I know the same is true for many of these women. We are here to support this bill today, not only for transparency, but for the American people. But if the government is going to release these documents to the public, describing the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and others, the least that they can do is give me my documents that they have about me. The other survivors deserve the same respect from our government. While our identifying information must be redacted to the public, it is equally important to provide the victims themselves with unredacted information. I will never forget when the FBI agent showed up in my door in 2008. Jeffrey Epstein hired a lawyer to represent me, or more like to represent him, I like to say. I couldn't ask any questions, and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified. Until today, I think most of us are still terrified. I thought somebody was going to kill me. I thought something was going to happen to my sister or my mother. It went further out to even maybe thinking something would happen in Brazil with my family. And then one day, the lawyer said that everything was just going to go away, like nothing happened. I didn't need to testify. When I asked him why, he gave no explanation. That was it. So why? Why was I never called to testify then? We could have saved so many women. We could have saved so many lives from being abused. Why did he get away with it in 2008? Why was he able to go on in the abuse with hundreds of girls after the Florida investigation? Why didn't they let me testify to help stop him? Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today and we are speaking and we are not going to stop speaking. Today, I stand here with the women who have really helped me to find the strength to come out and come forward to share my story for the very first time. Together, we are stronger than ever. While she may not be with us, Virginia Roberts, we will continue to use our voices to strengthen yours always. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Courtney Wild. I just wanted to take a second and just have a moment of silence for all the women survivors that aren't here with us today, that passed away due to anxiety, depression, trying to keep up with this case. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. My name is Courtney Wild. I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by a 13-year-old friend of mine. The details of the abuse that he inflicted on me for years is not important today. In 2028, I was cooperating with the federal government in the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. They sent me a letter telling me to be patient because this was going to be a lengthy investigation, but at the same time, they refused to talk to me and tell me what was going on. So I hired an attorney, Brad Edwards, because I was hopeful to get some answers. When I walked into his office at 19 years old, Brad sued the government for refusing to tell me what was going on under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The only reason anyone ever found out that the government had already given Jeffrey Epstein immunity through the non-prosecution agreement was because our lawsuit forced the government to tell us. Otherwise, nobody would even know that today. Sometimes it's hard to believe that I had to sue the United States just to learn that my abuser was given immunity. I started as Jane Doe, but I decided I was proud enough to take on our country, and I was on the right side of history. We fought the government for 10 years to prove that the government violated our rights as crime victims and the crime victims' rights in order to protect a pedophile. We had to win the 11th Circuit Court appeals to force the government to turn over thousands of pages of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and the government. Those emails provided the proof
proof that the government worked very hard with Jeffrey Epstein to violate our rights. Why? Why did the government work so hard to protect Jeffrey and not so hard to protect me and my other innocent friends? Why was Jeffrey so important to the government, and why was I so insignificant? Why did nobody but our lawyers care before now? It seems people have only started to care because of Twitter and politics. But I would like to say this has nothing to do with politics. This is not a blue thing or a red thing. This is an everyone thing. We can all agree on this. The injustice that has happened here, multiple, over and over. Everybody that talks about this just seems to make it worse. We need transparency. It's time for us to see beyond the curtain. Why was Jeffrey Epstein so protected? Who is still being protected? And who protected them all? So the world can understand how Jeffrey was able to abuse so many of us for so long. I was lucky to have Brad Edwards, Brittany Henderson, and Paul Cassell take on my case pro bono and fight fearlessly over 20 years' time. I would like to thank them, and I'd also like to ask the Trump administration to please sign off on the Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act, the Courtney Wild Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act that's we're trying to get passed here so we can close the loopholes in the CVRA case that Epstein's attorney used to their benefit to get away with this. Thank you so much.
Good morning. First and foremost, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Brad and Brittany Edwards, Congressman Massey and Khanna, and above all, the brave survivors who have entrusted us with the privilege of speaking today on behalf of Virginia. Robert Giuffre, as her family. We are here today because we support H.Res.581, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, in its entirety. But as much as this bill is about shining a light on truth, it's not just about the bill. This is about justice. This is about survivors. This is about justice against the rich and powerful who have stolen something from these women and many children at the time, their freedom. The freedom to live their life without mental and physical scars that have been inflicted upon them by those who thought they were untouchable. The same freedom that these monsters took from these survivors, they should never be afforded. They should never be allowed to continue their lives with impunity. Let's be clear. This is not a political issue. This is not about left or right. This is about humanity. This is about doing what's right. And this is about ensuring that the future we leave behind isn't one where the powerful can hide behind their wealth, their influence, and their money to evade justice. Our plea to you, whether you're a dad, a mom, a brother, or a sister, look your young ones in the face. Look them in the eye and tell them you didn't stand against the very people who raped, molested, and preyed upon children and young women. Tell them you were willing to negotiate a deal. Money should never be what makes something right or wrong. If you vote no, your stance will be clear. You will be choosing to stand on the side of the rich and powerful, allowing money to buy your way out of the consequence. But here's my one ask. Look these survivors in the eye and tell them why. Then look the people of the United States in the eye and tell them why. And then, when you're alone, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. Virginia said it best, and I quote, "I have physical and mental scars that will never heal. I have memories that will never go away. They say time can heal, but this won't. Not until the justice system makes an example out of these people with so-called privileges. I just call it money. The only time I can begin to heal is when their freedom is taken from them, just like they did to me, and literally thousands of other victims. The survivors of this horrific abuse are watching. The American people are watching, and history is watching. Which side will you be on? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jenna Lisa Jones, and I was only 14 years old when my friend brought me over to Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach in 2003. I had a terrible home life, but I was such an innocent kid then. I always did my best in school, and I had such a positive outlook on life. Until that day that I met Jeffrey, I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed me if I told them. I want to thank Congressman Rowe and Congressman Thomas Massey for having me here today. It was really hard for me to find my voice and to become strong enough to speak about my abuse. I didn't come forward until 2019, and even then it was like I was afraid of a ghost. I know that I was just a little kid, but sometimes I still feel like it is my fault that this happened. Being given the opportunity to speak at the United States Capitol building about something that is so important, not just to me and the women before you, but to the entire country. Together, we can finally make a change. And that is thanks to the people like these two congressmen and their teams who actually care about the victims. If you are a member of Congress and you are listening to all of us speak here today, please really listen to us. Please vote for this bill to be passed. Please recognize how important it is for transparency relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, this does not matter. This is not about sides. You are an American, and you are a person who has chosen to serve in an elected position to stand up for those you represent who cannot always stand up for themselves. We are those people. We are the Americans that you promised to protect, and we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard. Thank you.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Haley Robson. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Haley Robson. I was a 16-year-old high school student athlete who made good grades and had high aspirations for college when I was recruited and asked by a classmate of mine alongside with a 20-year-old male if I wanted to give an old rich guy a massage. But what high school girl would not want to do that? That day changed my life forever. And when I got into the massage room, Jeffrey Epstein undressed and asked me to do things to him. My eyes welled up with tears, and I have never been more scared in my life. When it was over, he paid me $200 and requested in exchange that I bring a girl each time to make another $200. I told him I did not want to do that, and then he gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage, and I will give you $200 per girl for each time she comes. I felt and hoped to never hear from him again, but he called me every day. He was so wealthy and powerful, and he would not let me go. I felt I had no choice. If I disobeyed him, I knew something bad would happen. So knowing I did not want to be sexually abused, I started to bring him other girls from my high school, and he paid me $200 for bringing them. I just hoped each time it would be the last time. One day, the stepmom of one of the girls brought him and called the police on Jeffrey Epstein. The police then called me in for questioning. I had told them the truth despite the fact that I was a teenager and a minor, and I was able to tell the police the names of all the other victims. The police treated me like a criminal. I had, by this time, had turned 18. I had been with Jeffrey since I was 16 and for 2 years. So they had told me so they told me I was going to be arrested. My name was then distributed to the press as a co-conspirator of my abuser, who I detested. My entire world was crashing in around me, and I started being threatened and bullied, till this day still receiving death threats. I was singled out and for many years had to suffer a smear campaign of lies about me because of the way that I was portrayed by the press. The press made me out to be a predator when I was just a 16-year-old little girl who was sexually abused by a powerful man and an evil man. For years, I had no friends. My boyfriend was murdered, and there was nowhere to turn. The government, after investigating more, learned that I was true a victim, but the damage was done and it was too late. There was no way to undo the harm the press had caused me. In 2019, I met Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson. They changed my life and they believed in me and have helped me to finally heal. Healing is a process and I may never get there. But the passage of this bill requiring the government to produce all the evidence that it has gathered on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is a huge component of healing for me and for the many other women who have suffered for so long. For many reasons. First, we and the rest of the world need answers. Why was he so protected? And why didn't anyone ever care to stop him? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that if he is spending thousands of dollars a day paying high school girls he abuses and had a lot of access to cash. I learned through my attorneys in the JP Morgan class action case that there were years when his staff withdrew over $1 million in cash a year. Was that not a big enough red flag? There were wire transfers to other victims, and the government did not protect us. The banks did not protect us. So lift the curtain on these files and be transparent. Every single time a new conspiracy gets circulated in the media, whether he is still alive, what powerful person had him murdered, who was on the Epstein client list, and there are names going around on TikTok and Instagram. We, the survivors, are suffering severely. We take our kids to school and everyone is talking about it. We can't read the news or do anything without hearing crazy stories that are only able to live on because the government continues to hide the evidence and the truth. So people just make up stories. Those stories hurt. They hurt real people who have already been hurt. And we have lost so many Epstein victims to suicide, and maintaining the real truth and secrecy only allows for conspiracy theorists to tell lies that drives up our anxiety and fears and will continue to lead to more pain, more suffering, and honestly, more deaths of innocent victims. It's time you do is right by us. Unseal all the documents. We are requesting transparency, and I am requesting every congressman and woman that goes against this bill be outed. I want to know. Thank you.
Very powerful speech on that last victim.
Aggressive tear into Congress.
Hi there. My name is Lisa Phillips, and I'm the host of a award-nominated podcast called From Now On, a platform supporting survivors. I want to thank all of my survivor sisters who came before me today. I'll be very short. In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world. For years after, I tried to avoid Jeffrey, but he had introduced me to Katie Ford, the owner of the Ford Modeling Agency. Epstein's reach went to the very top of fashion, arts, and entertainment. This did not just happen to underage girls in Florida. In New York City, hundreds of young, ambitious women were abused by him. Epstein was not just a serial predator, he was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else is involved. Stay tuned for more details.
Hello, my name is Shantae Davies, and I'm here before you today as a survivor of decades of pain, trauma, and betrayal at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and the people who enabled them, and a government that for far too long refused to help. In 2002, I was living in California, a young woman with high aspirations of becoming an actress. I was already beginning to make a name for myself in the industry. A person I trusted, someone I thought was a friend, invited me to meet a powerful woman who could help advance my career. That woman happened to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I was asked to give her a massage, though I had almost no experience. And when I did, she praised me and promised introductions to someone enormously powerful, someone who could change the course of my life. And that man was Jeffrey Epstein. At first, I was an excited young woman on top of the world. Epstein flew me to his private island. He listened to my dreams, promised to help, but his promises came with a catch. The abuse began. He told me to keep it secret. He manipulated me with quid pro quo I did not consent to, but I felt I had no one to turn to. He was too powerful. I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would protect me? Epstein himself was the most powerful leader of our country. Epstein surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world. He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually. And what I endured will haunt me forever. I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again. There are files, government files, that hold the truth about Epstein, who he knew, who owed him, who protected him, and why he was allowed to operate for so long without consequence. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable when so many others played a role? Why does the government hide this information from the public? This secrecy is not protection, it's complicity. And as long as the truth is buried, justice will remain out of reach. That is why this bill matters. Passing it will, bless you, ensure that the suffering of survivors is not in vain. Passing it will bring accountability, transparency, and prevention. It will help protect the next generation of predators who seek to place themselves above the law through wealth, influence, and connections. This is not just my story. It is about every survivor who carries invisible scars. It's about the weight we live with daily. It is about the families broken and the futures stolen. So I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth. We cannot heal without justice. We cannot protect the future if we refuse to confront the past. Thank you.
Let's just give a round of applause for all the courage and strength that the
we had about 9 to 10. I think 10 victims didn't speak. Ro Khanna is going to wrap this up. There's so much that was said and done here. Let's see what he finishes up with.
Me or Congresswoman Green in the hallways and other places. If you have questions for us, that's fine. But I wanted to see first if you have questions for the lawyers and the survivors, and Brad will facilitate any of the questions to the survivors. Yes.
Yeah. This question would be for the survivors, Mr. Edwards. The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the word that he used. Can we get your reactions to what you think when you hear him say that?
Oh, I'll answer that. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally to hear that?
Devastating.
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot. And it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not, please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Ms. Edwards, I wonder if any of the victims could respond to the news from recently about Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to a lower security prison in the aftermath of speaking to Todd Blank.
You want that one?
About her
Ghislaine getting
transfer.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I'm happy to speak to that. We were horrified to learn that she had been transferred to a prison camp. She is someone who was found guilty by a jury of sex trafficking. She not only, we often hear that she procured women for Jeffrey, which I think is a very sort of polite and minimizing term. She also participated in the abuse. Mm-hmm. She was a major architect of the scheme. And the fact that she has painted herself as a victim, I think is disgusting. And it was horrifying, I think, to us that we were not told about her prison transfer. We found out about it in the news.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute, I think Anushka maybe has something.
So, Anushka DiGiorgio, I testified alongside Annie at the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I was horrified when I found out not only had Ghislaine Maxwell been transferred to what's called a low security. It's really is like a holiday camp, and then afterwards I got a notification from the Department of Justice telling me that this was going to happen when it had already happened. This woman abused children. I was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell was present for some of my abuse at the hand of Jeffrey Epstein. She was present, she was complicit, she was enabling, and it is appalling and disgusting. And it's one of my worst nightmares that she not only be transferred, but at the possibility that's very much going around that she might be pardoned. This is not okay, guys. This is not okay.
And I just want to add that I think it sends a very dangerous message to our country, to the young people in our country, that someone that we all know is aware of these crimes could be given a pass.
And just for the last survivor who just spoke, the last survivor who just spoke, she said that Epstein would brag about her relationship with Donald Trump. Could she please elaborate about that?
Shut it.
Get to the microphones. Yeah.
Get close.
Yeah, I did say that.
By the way, you guys, in case you don't know, these planes that are flying over that interrupting. This was a planned military flyover. There was someone that posted about this, and it could have been potentially to be a
with
distraction.
Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey and Ghislaine were always very boastful about their friends, their famous or powerful friends, and his biggest brag forever was that he was very good friends with Donald Trump. He had an 8x10 framed picture of him on his desk with the two of them. Like they were very close.
Yeah. Go ahead. One second.
For this client list that you ladies are putting together, you said it would be confidential, but will the public, could you clarify, will the public get to see that?
So Lisa, what's your envision here?
Is it going to go to the public or just amongst the survivors?
No, we're reaching out to survivors that are scared.
So come on up.
We're reaching out to survivors that are scared to come forward and that also know who they were trafficked to. So that's the list that we're compiling. We're not quite sure, how we're going to release that, or even if we're going to, the Department of Justice needs to release the list.
Right.
Yes.
For folks at home, they might be confused. Survivors know the names. You've seen these powerful people. Why can't you say the names? Could you just explain?
Why do we have to say the names when the government knows the names? And we're also scared to do so. Look what's happened to so many of the survivors that have revealed names.
Yeah, I find it offensive.
I think it's also worth saying that having represented, I think, between our firm and Boyce Schiller, hundreds of victims, and we've talked to them about the various people that they were farmed out to. So we've created somewhat of a list. Most of these individuals, the victims, are very scared to say these names because they could get sued, they're going to get attacked, and nobody protected them the first time. And that was against one person. So is there a list? There is a list, but just to dispel kind of the common theme here, every one of these women was abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and his scheme was to personally abuse women. When they reached a certain age, he did farm a section of them, some of them, out to some of his friends. That doesn't mean all of his friends. With that said, I'm more than happy to assist in helping create the list behind the scenes and see what we do with it.
But if someone's interested,
Go ahead.
Hold on. I think if someone's interested in prosecuting, they may have something different to say about sharing a list, but they're not sharing a list for nothing to happen. And that's the experience that they've had for all of these years.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you all. We're waiting to see the fate of this discharge petition right now as we're here. The speaker and others have said that the people he met with yesterday had concerns about your names being released if this bill were passed. And some people I talked to today are not signing the discharge petition because they say you don't want them to. Can you clarify if that is accurate?
Do any of the survivors here not want the bill to pass?
First of all, our legislation, Khanna and I went through this. We talked about this, and we were very careful to make sure that there is an exception so that personally identifiable information, not just their names, but anything they could be identified by, would not be disclosed.
And can you speak to that as survivors yourself?
I think all of them are on the same page. That they want everything released.
Want the bill to pass.
Yes, they unequivocally redact personally identifying information and release everything else.
Mr. Edwards.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards, thank you.
I know it's your first time speaking.
Uh-oh.
I'll go to Marina if we can.
Yeah, sure.
Marina, you have stayed silent for so many years. Today, this is the first time, if you understand correctly, you have never before gone public with your story and to share this. Can you help us understand it? Why today? Why now? And why here?
Well, it is not okay for us to be silenced. And it's not okay for Jeffrey Epstein and everybody else to be put on a pedestal. I think everybody needs to hear from us because we know what went on, right? And there is not only me who's been silenced, there are hundreds of women that are silenced. My hope is to stop this abuse for the future, right? For people that are coming up, for women. My daughter, for example, these women have daughters. They most definitely don't want that anymore. And I think mainly this is therapy for all of us too. We want to be heard. Nobody also has never asked me to speak. That's also another thing. So I can say for all of us here, we are here. We want this bill to pass. It is very important. Okay, and we need transparency. We are tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it. We are done. We're not going to be silenced. And I hope that my voice will bring other survivors and other victims to come along and speak up so that we can be more of a stronger voice and louder.
So what is your message to President Trump on this?
Listen, I don't want to send a direct message to him. I'm already scared enough. Yeah, just pass the vote. Listen to us. This is not a hoax. Like, it's not going to go away. And like I said on my speech earlier, we're not going to be silenced anymore. We will be speaking moving forward wherever we need to be. We will be, and we need to pass this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Jordan Conrad from Gateway Pundit. For years we've heard that there's an Epstein client list or some kind of list. And now we hear from DOJ that there's no list. What about all victims? What do you guys think? I know you're working on your own list, but do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein had a list?
Yeah. So there's not a list. Yeah. So here's what it was. Just like you heard everybody today, Jeffrey Epstein created through an organization that of enablers, of people that were on his payroll. It was a complicated scheme where others should still be investigated because they helped to enable him and operate this scheme. Without those people, he could not have done this. But the purpose was for him to personally abuse people. With that being said, certain of his friends, he farmed out certain of the women that he was exploiting too. But that wasn't the primary purpose of that scheme. And I don't think he wrote the names of those people down. There's not a list of, hey, here's all of the people that I sent females to. That's just not how that organization works.
Mr. Edwards,
Agreed?
is there any evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with or tied to the CIA or a foreign intelligence operation?
I think that the safest thing for me to say is all files should come out, whether it is for this with the CIA, FinCEN, SEC, FBI. I'm not just making these up haphazardly. I'm giving you a roadmap where to look.
So if this bill
Go ahead.
The White House has said that this is a discharge resolution is a very hostile act. What's your response to
I'll go first and then I'll let them. They're much more important than me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated.
Sir,
Go ahead.
Are there any people who are currently serving in government who are named, who you know of, are in these files, who you had relations with, anything of that sort, who Jeffrey Epstein connected you with? Are you willing to say yes or no?
I don't think I can answer that. Sorry.
They're saying they're being scared to talk.
I think she's referring to my speech.
Hi, Anushka DeGiorgio. I have been threatened. I was threatened by phone. My daughter was threatened when I was volunteering to participate in, by means of being a witness in a civil lawsuit that Virginia Giuffre was bringing against Ghislaine Maxwell. I have been followed. I have been stalked. I have been followed not only by journalists, but by people who do not get out of the car and do not try and talk to me and just drive behind me as I drive my daughter to school. So the fear is very real for us. I have also been in multiple situations with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where they have been direct and indirect about implying and saying that if I was to talk, if I was to bring any kind of trouble, then there would be severe consequence, including death.
And just to add to that, Maxwell also threatened my sister, Maria Farmer. When the FBI did nothing about her initial report, we did she reported individually at that time. And then in 2002, we spoke to a reporter at Vanity Fair telling our stories, fearful that perhaps other people were being harmed. We were not. We believed that was going to make a difference. We believed that would be put in print, and that story was crushed. And it was because of their power. And the message that we got from that was direct threats from Maxwell to my sister about her well-being and her safety and that of our family. So I think many people have similar stories of threats. That has been a very real part of this case.
Go ahead, over here.
Anybody here ever have any connection or interaction with Epstein's alleged financier, Leslie Wexner? No.
Nope.
If you want to address that,
I just want to say one thing that's very clear. When people say, please share names, there are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him, and he's been seen as a victim when clearly I believe there's more to it.
Right here, please.
Yep.
Yeah. So you represented Virginia Roberts for years. She eventually had to recant the allegations that she made against Alan Dershowitz. She alleged that.
Don't answer. All right, next question. Next question. Thank you.
Who's next?
Why is it that she should be?
Yeah, no, we're not answering your question. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
How did the victims feel about the interview that was given to Ghislaine Maxwell?
There's a woman trying to say something.
That's better. Okay, ma'am, I think that you had a question.
When you talked in the past on
MSNBC
about the existence of the Epstein birthday book, have you yourself in the course of litigation seen it?
I don't know that we're able to reveal what we've seen and what we have not seen by way of protective order. But my point being in that circumstance was, if anybody wants answers, there's an easy place to get it. I told you where to get it. I said the estate of Jeffrey Epstein has it. Serve a subpoena on them. They'll turn it over. And if we had served a subpoena on them in the past, they would have turned it over and we would have seen it, which I don't usually miss subpoenas like that. So there we go.
Mr. Edwards, can you elaborate?
Go ahead.
Just say one thing on that. To your question about the allegations, there's a simple answer. Release the files. Let the American public decide. Instead of harassing, I gave you your say. Look.
Prominent individual among others.
You're hired by Dershowitz.
And then how do you
You've been heard. You've been heard. And even Alan Dershowitz says to release the files. Release the files. That is the answer, and that's what we're here for. And that is it. Yeah.
You gotta go.
Can you elaborate on the
Sorry. Yeah.
You said that Donald Trump gave you help in 2009. Can you elaborate on your interactions with Donald Trump back in 2009? And for any of the victims, they didn't ever see the president, well, then not president yet, but they never see Trump with Epstein in any way.
I don't know who's. I don't think that we can answer that question. Did anybody see Trump with Epstein back then? This is really not a political thing. We want the passage of the bill, and this is not to call out President Trump. My point was that he was friendly back then, did not think that it was a hoax, and was trying to help. And now it seems like all of a sudden somebody's in his ear and he's not. So I'm hoping he'll come back to where he was back in 2009, be on the side of the victims and stand with us.
On the passage of the bill,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask the victims what they thought of the interview with Todd Blanche.
Did you answer that? Can you answer?
Todd Blanche.
Do you want to answer it?
I would.
Teresa will step up.
I would. Teresa J. Home. Happy to speak on that, because what I will say is she got this airtime and platform. Her voice was elevated way before our voices were elevated here today. And that same calm, manipulative voice that she had so polite there that day with Todd Blanche was the same polite, coercive, manipulative voice that I heard as she was grooming me to then send me off to the home of Jeffrey Epstein where he would assault me. So that's what she was doing for hours, speaking with me, building relationship with me, building trust with me, allowing me to believe that I was going to get this job, a dream job that I had been recruited from my college, flown across the country from Los Angeles to New York City to interview, so I thought. So her voice that day was the same voice that sent me off to a monster. So nothing can be believed from what she says, because she's been charged with perjury. I myself could sit there and listen, and as I did, I sat there and listened to this woman's voice lie. And there was no pushback from Todd Blanche, because does he even have the facts to be able to push back on her?
Yeah.
We could sit there and push back. Why didn't we get to attend that? Why weren't we there that day? Or why wasn't even one of us consulted prior to that day in that meeting? And why on earth has she been moved from Florida to it basically is prison spa. I mean, let's be real. None of us were consulted. I found out, just like everyone here found out, through the media, through all of you. We found out about Ghislaine's transfer. So I'm very angry to sit there and listen. The feelings that come up listening to this woman's voice is repulsive. Yes, I would say it's triggering. We all work very hard on healing, and it still gets to us after 2 decades. It's a very long answer, but it's repulsive to sit there and listen to her voice in her interview.
Can we take two more questions? One over here.
My reporting in very directly led to $100 million payment from JP Morgan to the Virgin Islands. Will you go after the DOJ, the FBI, because they're sitting on evidence? I've held the evidence in my hands.
I think that there's nobody that's immune from us going after them if there's a legitimate action to take. So to the extent that evidence exists, then show it to us, and we'll help in every way we can. We stand with the victims. Okay. One more.
Survivors speak to speaking of being threatened and being afraid to come forward with the story to the case of Katie Johnson, who alleged that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't think we can talk about. I don't think we can talk about that case. I do think it's worth saying, though, despite the comments that he made, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is an American hero. She is somebody without whom we would not be able to have this voice. She was the one who had courage to name names, speak out against people, and she was standing up against everybody at one time with an enormous amount of pressure.
And most of these women are here because of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. So,
all right, last one.
Johnson says he's protecting the innocent. What do the victims say? Do they think innocent people are that he's protecting?
Clearly not us.
I don't think that anybody knows, but I can tell you that in the oversight committee meeting yesterday, they indicated that they were all for transparency, releasing the files, and asked us to hold them accountable. Isn't that right?
Yes.
They said hold them accountable, so we intend to hold them accountable.
That's up to them.
We're going to show them where to go with it, and as long as they're doing their job, they should. I'm going to turn it back over to Bro Khanna. Thank you.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. I think the people back who are testifying here today or speaking out today, they are American heroes. Let's give them another round of applause. And you say, look, Thomas, Marjorie, and I, we're huge believers in the First Amendment, and we believe in free speech, and we take abuse all the time. But you see why it's so hard to do what they have done, because they come forward and you subject yourself to national scrutiny and national questioning. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how appreciative I am and how proud I am of what you've done today. You made a big difference. Before I bring on Marjorie and then Thomas will have the last word, I want to summarize 3 basic things that I heard from the survivors. First, they want to know why our government covered up for someone rich and powerful.
There, Khanna has given his recap of what we just watched for the past hour, 20 minutes or so. So for all you guys who just showed up, hi, how you doing? What's going on? It's a Wednesday here on the watch party. Came in super early. The Congress people spoke before before each of the victims stepped forward and gave their comments, their feelings, what they wanted to get from this, but it was all for the purpose of pushing forward and getting this discharge petition signed by enough Congress people for them to release the Epstein files to a degree that the leadership currently hasn't done. It's called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. You see it on the billboard in front of them there. As you can see, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, along with Khanna, 2 Republicans and a Democrat. Also, other Republicans that were notable that signed on after that oversight committee private meeting yesterday. Lauren Boebert and also Nancy Mace, 2 more Republicans. I think as we've seen already, I believe every Democrat is also ready and willing to sign on, but hasn't gotten to a full vote with the House because, again, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican, who kowtows to Donald Trump, is finding ways and excuses to say that it's not going to happen, or they've released enough, or that we need to protect people when seems the objective is not to that. You guys were curious what Marjorie Taylor Greene has been saying. Let's go back to her really fast.
To put yourself in these women's shoes. As you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped and being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers and extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with those people. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now, another thing, this is not about politics. And this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Roe just said, there's become 2 Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster. It shouldn't exist anymore, and people are sick of it. So let's recognize the fact that the administration before and the one before it and the one before it and the one before it and before it never did anything about this. So this isn't one political party or the other. It's a culmination of everyone worked together to silence these women and protect Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal. And this is not just rich, powerful people. Think his drivers, his maids, his chefs, all the people, people that worked in his home, security guards. I heard one story from a young woman that was being raped by Jeffrey Epstein when he was out on work release while he was serving time in prison and had an ankle monitor on his leg. Guess what? There was a police officer outside that door. So this list of names is quite a list of names, and it doesn't extend just in the rich, powerful circles. It extends down to the very bottom where people were paid. And again, I will say this, there's victims suffering today in similar circumstances, and they're terrified to name the names of the people that are currently abusing them. And so with these brave, courageous women fighting this fight, this is a fight for women and children and any person that is facing sexual abuse and rape and captivity and human trafficking right now. And so here's what I ask you in the press. Don't go for salacious headlines. Go for the truth and defend these women and help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines for doing the right thing and trying to do it together. And thank you, Ro, and thank you, Thomas. And now I recognize Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking actual truth to what's happening here. I think something snapped in her specifically on this issue.
In the people's house. We're standing in front of the people's house with real people, not a hoax. And they've told their story. We wanted to give them a platform to speak, and they've had it. They stepped up and they were brave. But I also today hope that they would persuade my colleagues to join this effort. But I found out something today that happened that I wasn't expecting. They persuaded me to fight even harder. I'm not going to give up. And I want to end with this call to action. First, a call to action to my colleagues who just an hour before this press conference were prepared. They were given a fig leaf. We'll put a resolution on the floor so that you can say that you voted to protect the survivors. Their resolution doesn't really do anything. And that's the oldest trick in the swamp. When you want to kill the momentum, when you want to kill initiative, you introduce a placebo, a different bill that does nothing, and then try to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. That's not going to happen this time. We demand real accountability. I encourage my colleagues, please. There's over 200 Republicans who have not signed this discharge petition. We only need 2 of them to sign it. And every Democrat will sign it. And that will get us the number we need to force this vote, to pass a law, not a polite request to the DOJ to police themselves. No, we need legally binding legislation to force that to happen. And my main call to action is to the people watching these live feeds that are going through these cameras right now. Congressmen, listen to you. Light up their phones. Burn down the phone lines here in Washington, D.C. Ask them the questions that these survivors wanted you to ask them. Why won't you be for transparency? Don't accept their answer that the bill has a flaw or that the survivors don't want it. We know that's not true. They wouldn't be fighting it so hard in this town if it wasn't the real bill. So with that, please call your congressman. Tell him or her to get on this bill and to stand up for these survivors. Thank you and God bless. That's the end.
So, hey, so that's the end of that. They spoke for about an hour and a half. For those of you guys who just jumped in, expecting me to give the, I guess the build up to as us. We're going to start our normal hour on the watch party here on a Wednesday. We've been going since about 10:30. And there was a lot that was said. There's a lot that I think pressure has been placed on so many more folks who've been holding out. There's a lot of answers that need to be given by folks that keep saying they've given enough. From the James Comers of the world who keeps stepping in front of podiums and saying we've done everything we can, to Mike Johnson, who's also saying, we want to protect the victims. There was 10 of them there that said the kind of protection they need is not wait a second, hold on. The kind of protection they need has nothing to do with what it is that he's claiming to give them. But they need some actual justice. I guess there's more questions than answers happening. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there. Thomas Massey was there. Khanna was there. They were the 3 main Congress people that showed up to facilitate this whole thing. Also, the attorney for many of these victims was there. He saw the questions and answers. There were some fiery moments. There was one reporter that stepped up there and wanted to know why Virginia Giuffre, who they said killed herself, why she retracted a statement that she had. I believe it was an Alan Dershowitz situation. So he got shouted down. Many questions, wanted answers, wanted names right then. There was one victim that said they're going to compile their own Epstein list because they do remember some of their attackers and predators that were sent on them. So a lot happened. There was other stories I was preparing to go through with our normal hour today. and I just got to see. I was about to send it up, and I didn't realize how long that presser would be. I've been on since 9:30 to just to get this all going. It's there's a lot more to be broken down, but again, it's the Epstein Files Transparency Act that they're pushing. As Thomas Massey then pointed out there, they need 2 more signatures from Republicans to be on board with this, so that it can be forced to finally release more of these files. The meat and potatoes of the files, the things that show how deep this went. People spoke about how it was international. There was protections from other folks, international leaders, rich and powerful people, celebrities, all these types of folks. And some of the victims said they saw these people that were in some of these circumstances and situations. It's one of those stories, man. And it's going to transcend just like politics. There's Republican and Democrats up there, even from some of the victims. One woman said she's a Republican, and that doesn't mean anything. And every time they were asked to name names, none of them wanted to answer the question in that manner. And it's understandable, because as they've mentioned, some of the threats they've had, some of the ways that they've been followed and intimidated, this is where then it pits. And I know how media members may think this way. It turned into pitting. You're going to name some names. Oh, yeah, Bill Clinton did this. Oh, yeah, Donald Trump did that to me. And oh, yeah, the third person did it to me. And then that turns into the story, rather than them getting to the bottom of why so many of these women, who this is not the first time they've told their stories. It's just the first time enough people have listened. So as they've told their stories, there was a coordinated effort from top to bottom. As we heard Representative Stansbury say yesterday, which I do have that video, which I was planning on getting to before this happened, which was a lot more direct of what's happening, about how it's from the top to the bottom, from attorney generals that didn't do much before, to the way that our justice system ignored it in many instances. Their stories just weren't listened to, so they don't have the energy and understanding that anyone would listen to them now, until there's enough of them together that will do it. We saw what happened to Virginia Giuffre. We still see how, even in the situation that the scenario that she gave before, there was a reporter that still wanted to be like, how come she retracted her statement? There's always going to be the viciousness. But one thing they made clear was the rampant nature of this kind of behavior from so many men that do this to not just women also, but women, children, young boys, and all the like internationally. We always kind of knew that. It's one of the things that Trump ran on, but now he calls it a hoax. I would expect answers from the past few presidents and their attorney generals and those Congress people that were in positions like Speaker of the House positions, leadership positions in the Senate, that didn't do anything about all this stuff. Or they had their people in place to shield them from having to even talk about this stuff. Their answers could literally be, I never heard about it. But that's just not being proactive, and it's not really caring about this being probably one of the biggest issues and exposures of so many people internationally. And that's why a literal grouping of folks that don't have to follow the law, and it involves sex trafficking. So I wanted to send up a couple things so we can actually talk about some of these stories that's happening. I didn't finish fully compiling everything, but I'm glad to see some of the normal names and faces here in the chat. It may be a little bit more impromptu and possibly a little bit shorter today, as far as once we now start at the noon hour. It's a bit of a crazy day, but I'm glad you guys are here. I just sent myself some of the stories that I wanted to get to. Maybe I can just go and jump right into these once I get a chance to prep this a little bit more. I literally just came out of that press conference for all these folks right in front of the Capitol, speaking about what it is that they then went through. It's kind of the story of the day. Here's a lot of what happened yesterday. Let me go straight into the way this could look. You guys give me a couple seconds. Let me plan this a little bit better. And then we can get started on some of these things that I did have going. So we at least see how we got to the point that we are in today. This is a loose version, of course, of the watch list. You guys should expect this from me by now. It's a one-man show. I'm literally putting through my stories that I'm going to run to you guys that I usually do before we jump on, the things that usually make me late when I have been late. But so bear with me a little bit. Let me close out C-SPAN and their coverage here. I'm going to get these stories ready. But if you guys hadn't heard yesterday, the Oversight Committee in Congress did speak to, I believe, 6 of the victims. I'm not sure of 6 of these 10 that spoke today, but 6 of the victims. And it led to many of them being horrified. But the whole purpose here, again, led by Khanna and Thomas Massey, was to make sure that this discharge petition gets signed, that people actually start take this seriously. So if you hear little sounds of folks jumping in, that's me setting up some of these videos to make sure you guys hear them live when I go with it. But this is probably gonna be the story I'm gonna run with today. And I'm gonna also cut up many of the things that we saw from that press conference that's gonna go up on the page as well later on. It's a bit of a busy day. But I believe this is one of the most influential stories of any of our politics. And it doesn't have to be strictly about politics, but the fact that politicians ignored and hid this for so long makes it political. Because the politics is what allows some folks to just skirt by any kind of accountability. It also allows people to then say, "Oh, don't make it political." It's our society. It's how we operate, and these are our leaders that are supposed to represent us. If our leaders aren't representing us, it's political for us now too. I'm almost ready for you guys. Hold on. So anybody else who did see that, I'm not sure if you guys know what you're looking to expect afterwards. There was one survivor that said they're putting together this list, and then when they asked, some reporters asked for details for what kind of list it'll be, they didn't want to say the names the way that they would go about it. Again, it's scary. I can't remember one of the names of one of the victims who said she's already afraid enough, so she doesn't want to start naming names, and of course that'll make people say you're lying. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll probably just run through this one story. There's the Alex Jones InfoWars story. Maybe I'll do that as well in a second. But for those of you guys that are here, let's go ahead and, in case you hadn't heard, in case you guys just jumping up, audio and video is out of sync. Abby, you say? Could be because of all this craziness that I'm doing. And I hope it continues on. I don't want to stop it and restart it. Let me see if you guys are saying. I've been going for almost an hour and a half now. You guys may give me 1 minute. I may have to reorganize this and re-get started, but I don't want to lose you all. Okay, let me know if this continues to go as badly as it was. The Alex Jones story is kind of crazy, and I think it's an indication of where our politics is going and some of the divisions that are happening, even amongst some of these talkers. One guy that used to be part of Alex Jones apparently has detached, and it's a bit of a problem for them. Let's start. So on the steps of the Capitol, the day before these Epstein victims stepped out and spoke very powerfully about what it is they went through and what it is that they want to see with the release of these files. One Thomas Massey spoke with CNN about what is that has already been given and what is that they expect to get next, because right now Republican leadership isn't doing much. Here we go.
It's like only 1% of what they possess. And 97% of it's already been released. I'm afraid this is going to be like Pam Bondi's binders. Is people are going to dig into it and say there's nothing new here. They haven't given us anything. They've given us the sleeves off their vest.
The president's called it a hoax.
He's called it a hoax. I hope he doesn't say that after tomorrow when 10 of the survivors testify in public. That would be very disrespectful. It's like only 1% of what they possess.
Thomas Massey speaking out, crossing party lines, specifically with the president of the United States and Mike Johnson, who just want to give that 1% of those Epstein files that they're all expecting. So after 6 of these victims spoke with the Oversight Committee and the rest of the House hasn't heard it yet, folks are stepping out. But there's something that's been the continuous theme here when it comes to how this White House is responding. Democratic Representative Robert Garcia pointed that out here.
We are all working together on oversight to get this done in every single possible way. And it's important that we're centering the victims, that we hear their stories like we did today, and continue to support and believe them in the days and weeks ahead.
Is the White House doing anything? Are they actively involved with trying to prevent people from voting for this discharge petition?
I have heard tonight from folks in Congress, including Republicans, that the White House is actively right now telling Republicans to not sign the discharge petition. And of course, that petition is what would allow and force a vote on the floor that Mike Johnson could easily put up on his own, but is not interested in true disclosure.
If they want real disclosure, they shouldn't be rallying against it.
There, Representative Garcia talking about how the White House is actively pressuring, and this is on Tuesday, actively trying to pressure other Republicans because he expects Republicans in Congress to do his bidding. And you kind of can't blame him. That's what he's expected, and that's what they've been doing ever since he stepped his ass back into office. So why wouldn't he openly pressure them to not release it? But the question then becomes is why would he not want them to release it? Representative Melanie Stansberry pointed out, another Democrat, about what it is that she saw and what it is that she's understanding, and she's making it very clear how far this goes up.
But I want to be clear that what we heard today is a cover-up, and it is a cover-up of epic proportions, a cover-up involving the United States government, the justice system, rich and powerful individuals, a cover-up potentially involving foreign countries and foreign actors. And yes, here today in this House, as our colleagues are up in the House chamber in the Rules Committee, a cover-up by the Republicans in this chamber. Because as you will find out in the coming days and weeks, this goes all the way to the top. So let's be clear about that. There has been a systemic failure of the justice system for decades, a systemic failure to hold people who are powerful and have money to account. And that has allowed not just hundreds, but potentially thousands of women, not only in the United States, but around the world, to be bought, sold, and trafficked for sex, not only by Jeffrey Epstein, but by his associates and his rich and powerful friends. And as these stories come forward, whether they're stories that have already been told, there's stories in those FBI files that have not been released by the Department of Justice and which they must release because of the subpoena, or whether they are stories of victims that have not yet come forward, we will hold you all accountable for this miscarriage of justice, for the abuse of these women and the abuse of this institution to try to cover it up. Because there happens to be a very powerful person at the top who doesn't want these stories out.
He can dispel anything that people are talking about as far as how this is political, and look at the Republican Party covering this up by refusing to continue to cover it up. I think she was speaking very directly and powerfully about how high this has gone and how far back it's gone. She said decades. So when you stand on your principles of what it is that you believe in should happen, once you hear these types of stories, which we've always heard these stories, but we've had enough of an energy of dismissing it, saying, what was she wearing? Oh, what are they trying to get out of this guy? In those instances, we've allowed it to become this normalcy in our society to just let these things slide. That's why I think this is one of the bigger stories that transcends politics. This is the way that we've always felt about sex assault victims. You just said, what was she doing? Why did she do it that way? Oh, this guy. Now, of course, there's people who've had some false claims. Maybe if we were more open about folks who actually come with their claims, those false claims could be a lot more easy to tell. But she's talking about decades of a cover-up. So again, if the principle is to no longer cover these things up, you won't have to worry about saying, or did Democrats cover this up? I got a good answer for you. Yes. Because folks that are rich, elite, and powerful don't sit on one side of the aisle versus another. These folks feel they're untouchable. So when you have attorneys generals from previous administrations, presidents from previous administrations, Congress people from previous administrations and times that have been covering this up, yes, they've covered it up, or they've ignored it and didn't even feel like they had to actively cover it up because no one else was asking about it. Now they're asking about it, and Donald Trump is sitting in the White House going, it's a hoax, because he's an idiot. He's an idiot. And as we've already heard, and he's already been told by his own Attorney General Pam Bondi, he's on the list. Now, they did today talk about the list and how it's not a written ledger of folks. It was an organization of people, and the way that they brought folks in and recruited young girls to continue to keep this going. So no, every time one of these nasty predators walked in, they didn't sign their name on a ledger and then step into the room. Representative Stansbury wasn't done yet. I enjoyed what she was saying, and we'll see, because I believe she's going to stand by this last statement that she gave.
So that is why we subpoenaed these records. That is why these victims were here today to bravely tell their stories. And whatever justice looks like in the coming days and weeks and years, we will follow every thread. We will follow every piece of evidence. We will follow every bank record. We will follow every investigation. We will follow every court order, and we will make sure that those who were abused by these men are held accountable.
You have to answer these types of statements now. So we've always had the game of politics being played. Again, I mentioned Mike Johnson, James Comer, who said, well, we released that 1%. Thomas Massey, another Republican, had to expose that lie. They're cornered now. So listen to the way Representative Stansbury was talking then about how she's going to go about this. And many folks apparently are behind her, and she's one of many that's going to be a part of going about this, versus the way the Speaker of the House and the leadership in this country is now talking about what is it they've done and what is it they want to continue doing. There's fire on one side, and there's some con man selling on the other.
Lawmakers back on Capitol Hill after summer recess and already taking action on the Epstein files. Right now, the House Oversight Committee is meeting with Jeffrey Epstein victims behind closed doors. And just moments ago, Republican Congressman Thomas Massey and Democratic Congressman Khanna were expected to file a discharge petition aimed at compelling the Department of Justice to fully release all the files related to Epstein's case. Let's go live to Capitol Hill with CNN's Manu Raju. And Manu, you just spoke with Congressman Massey. What did he share with you?
Yeah, he indicated that he is moving full steam ahead. He believes ultimately that he will have enough Republican support to push this measure through, at least get a vote in the full House. Remember how this will essentially work. The Republican leadership, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, does not want a vote on this measure to compelling the release of these Epstein documents. He says that is not necessary. He believes that there's already a process underway to release these documents, and he says that he's urging Republicans not to sign on to this effort. But there is this, what often is a long shot effort to circumvent the leadership of the United States House, get enough support, a majority support of the full House, meaning at least 5 Republicans would be needed to sign with all Democrats in order to actually call for a vote that would put this measure on the floor of the full chamber. Just moments ago, Massey indicated to me that he believes that he will have enough Republican support to move ahead. And he said that there is considerable pressure coming from the White House on Republicans not to side with him.
Wouldn't that be a bad look? Mike Johnson, who said he wants all this transparency, who said he works with the president, we're looking to get to the bottom of this, we don't want any of this happening, would have to get forced by enough folks, bipartisan folks, to sign on, to force them to have a full vote to release these files. How would that make Mike Johnson then look? After we've heard not only just from Representative Garcia, but also from Massey, that there's pressure from the White House to not do that. The pressure from the White House says don't do it. Mike Johnson says don't do it. And then the rest of Congress, enough members of the rest of Congress, push for that to happen. It could be happening right now. I'm not sure when they were planning on doing this, because that press conference with these victims just ended not too long ago. And that could press then some kind of action that these folks who keep saying they want action but refuse to actually have any action keep walking away from. I think that's a pretty big indictment. And that's when now they're cornered. During that press conference there on Wednesday, of course, that we just saw a little bit of, or the whole thing of, the energy there seems to be shifting. And I did wonder that whole time, what are these folks that are thinking they have to cover this up? What is it they're feeling right now? What is it that Donald Trump is trying to cook up now? Don't forget, remember that meeting that his cabinet or his closest circle within the administration had, with JD Vance and his chief of staff, and then Pam Bondi, and then Todd Blanche, and I believe Kash Patel. They left out Dan Bongino, and they had that secret dinner that got exposed for a strategy meeting on how to continue to approach the Epstein files. Why would you need a strategy meeting on how to approach the files that you have access to whatever degree that they do, to what's left, if you can just release it, or if you can have Mike Johnson be a part of allowing this to then go forward, and we go through it and we find out what's going on, we get rid of all of these folks that are part of it, an international child sex trafficking ring, whose lives are in danger, whose lives are on the line. Here's more from this back and forth. There was lots of battles and fights happening. Representative McGovern here, Democrat, was speaking about why there's so many shaky knees and people that are afraid of seeing this go down. He had more to say.
I mean, do you support the Massey Khanna resolution? Yes or no?
We're already doing it. And let me say,
No, it's a
Mr. No,
simple
the
yes or no
discharge
answer.
petition does not have the force of law. We've already subpoenaed.
You can
And
begin by
look,
saying no, and I'll let you.
no,
you can
look,
answer or
Mr.
yes,
McGovern, it's very
and you can answer.
disappointing that you're trying to politicize this.
It's a yes or no question. It's not a trick question. I mean, do you?
We've
think,
already
do you
done
think-
what
do you
the
think
discharge
resolution-
petition's
Do
asking.
you think the resolution saying to keep doing what you were doing is better than a bill that can become
The
law?
bill,
which
the
would
bill
be-
has
excuse me,
no
I'm
force of
speaking.
law.
I have
It has
I
no
have time.
force of the law.
Yeah.
You're just
No,
trying to
we're
do a
talking
political
about-
stunt.
But do you think the resolution saying to keep doing what you were doing is better than a bill that can become law, which would require the release of all the files?
It doesn't have the force of the law. It's just a political stunt.
You know, you could vote for it, and then if he decides to veto it, you could override the veto. You're telling us that you're going to release some of the files tonight. If I heard Mr. Garcia correctly, 97% of which is already out in public. So we get 3% that's new. I don't know what it's going to say. But I just don't understand what the big deal is. Why can't the administration just release the files? You could do the investigation, but just release all the files. You know, Trump and the people he put in charge of the FBI and the DOJ promised that they would. And it's just kind of strange that they haven't done so yet. I mean, don't you think? I mean, we just want to know, what are they trying to hide? Why is this such a difficult thing for them to do? Who was the president of the United States when Mr. Epstein died in custody?
I would assume it would have been Trump.
Yeah. I think what's going on here today is the Republicans are terrified. And I think we all know why. And that is because the president doesn't want to release all the files.
And the questions left are why. There's been enough pressure now. Enough people are talking about it now, from both sides of the aisle, very forcefully, very directly, so where you really can't challenge why or what it is that they're saying and why that they're doing it. But you can see why folks are not about this, why they want to keep the status quo going in this. This has been our normalcy. Yes, there's been tons of us that haven't been hardcore on this stuff, because where would it go? Even these victims, they're like, well, how come you guys haven't spoken out before? Well, look at how folks are treated when they do. You know, people don't watch it. People don't pay attention. You get only negative attention for it. So you think, I'm going to expose myself like this, potentially be threatened. And as you see people lose their lives over it, yes, to that degree, you almost wonder, well, what's the purpose for it? There has to be enough of people willing to be courageous enough to then do it. It goes even to politicians as well, that they should probably be on that as well. So James Comer, if you guys remember, I did tons of videos on James Comer for the last year and a half of Joe Biden's administration, where he was investigating, he was looking for links and ties and international things and all these business dealings with Joe and his son Hunter and all of this. It was pretty constant. He doesn't have enough investigative skills or curiosity to want to go further than that. When it's been exposed that the things that they said they're releasing, remember, was supposed to be grand jury testimony and hearings, meant nothing. Even a judge blocked that and said that wouldn't be worth us even doing over. But now his fight is to stop things. Just understand who the bad guys are, because they're telling you, I'm not telling you, they're showing who they are. Matter of fact, one of them is also Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett was one of the folks that came out of these and was saying these victims have to get some kind of accountability. He's been back and forth and everywhere on this. He said he didn't trust Pam Bondi at one point. There was another point when he said we have to get these files out, but I just don't know if they're worth it anymore. I don't know what Joe Biden did to them. That's playing politics with it. Manu Raja pointed out that now, as of Tuesday, Tim Burchett told him that it's a moot point now to move ahead with Massey and his plan compelling the release of these documents. He had been a supporter of it, but he's now Massey needs those last 5, which now as of today is down to the last 2 that he needs. Man, I'm telling you, bro, Tim Burchett is one of those guys. Dadgummit and dadgummit and dadgum. You notice he's been saying dadgummit a lot more lately because he's trying to have this hokey, like personal hometown feel when nobody cares. In fact, it makes you look worse that now dadgummit is every other word that you say when you still keep flip-flopping on this one issue wherever you think it's going to be politically helpful to you. And maybe to avoid the ire of the president who told you guys, I've heard it from 2 different folks who told them, I need you to be against this discharge petition. Thomas Massey also thanked some of the Republican women that signed on. As you guys may have seen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. And so speaking of Nancy Mace, this was the scene before the oversight hearing was over with 6 of those victims where she couldn't take much more of it. Answer no questions. Listen to no questions. So, as I believe so few of you guys saw, Nancy Mace walked out of the hearing early, red-faced and in tears, and I believe someone asked her a question and she continued walking out. I also saw Don Lemon post over on Threads that he had seen her just outside of the Capitol in the corner having a panic attack. And she asked him for privacy, so he said he gave her privacy and then went in front of a camera and told everybody what was happening. But since that was all reported, she then posted herself about what is it she experienced. So she went on Twitter and said, since it's already been reported, yes, I left the oversight briefing with Epstein's victims early. As a recent survivor, not 2 years in, I had a very difficult time listening to their stories. Full-blown panic attacks, sweating, hyperventilating, shaking. I can't breathe. She says, I feel the immense pain of how hard all victims are fighting for themselves because we know absolutely no one will fight for us. And she finished by saying, God bless all survivors. So you could imagine some of the folks in response to that said, you need to stop making this about yourself. And then others also pointed out that she's a full-throated supporter of Donald Trump. And after we've seen some of the things that he said, the victims of his own that came forward, the judgments and rulings that were adjudicated against him, they wondered why she's just now seeing it. I understand questioning the legitimacy or the credibility of Nancy Mace, considering she's been all over the place. She was a maverick at one point. She was against Donald Trump before she was then for him. She's been all about promoting herself for political purposes for a while now. So I totally get it. I'm gonna let her be a part of signing on to this. That we can still dislike Nancy Mace and her performative nature. I don't know if that was performative. It doesn't matter to me. She is a victim. She's talked about that for years. So in being a part of supporting this, as long as she's supporting it, bro, that's the main purpose here, because there's tons of unknown, non-famous, unelected, quiet victims that feel like they're never going to get justice. Again, even beyond the Epstein story. It should be one of these shifts in our society because of the nature of how big of names could be and are connected to this. So glad to have you sign on there, Nancy. It doesn't mean I need to support anything else that you do, because this isn't necessarily what she was about supporting for a while. These things have to be pressed on people. That's how maybe she has to change her mind on this issue. Doesn't mean that she's not going to go back and grovel to Donald Trump the next day. It just means right now, which could force maybe his anger towards her. She's on the right side. But this is really where it comes down to. These last two, let me see, last couple videos here about this story. Oh, I want to get this first. During that presser today, where 10 of the Epstein victims spoke there and were accompanied by Khanna, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others, there was a couple of loud noises over the top. In fact, at one particular time, it wasn't planned this way, I don't think. It's been pretty much impossible. But there was some flyovers. It was loud jets flying right over the Capitol where folks were speaking. And this was reported the day before about what is that that was seen that they may have seen happening. I want to go to this really fast because those loud noises I was expecting for the entire time because of this tweet from Sunday Girl. She said, just received notice that there's going to be a military flyover of DC tomorrow at 11 a.m., just in time to distract from the 10:30 press announcement about the Epstein victims. Surely the timing is coincidental, is what she said. I'm not sure her background, but she's got several 100,000 or so followers. But I wasn't going to point out her tweet until I actually saw it happen. And there was confirmation that what she posted was true. There was a military flyover. It happened two or three times to the point where the folks speaking had to stop and wait and then pause. But if that was the plan, if that was part of the Trump administration Epstein group strategic plan that they've carried out now further with that stupid plan, how would that keep them from talking? They spoke for an hour and a half. So you fly over 2 or 3 times and take up what, a minute and a half of the time, maybe 2 minutes, and then they continue on. If nothing else, it allows people like this to point out what it is that they were planning as they saw it happen. And then we see that you're doing that, which feeds into more of people's need to wonder, why are you so hell-bent on not allowing folks to speak? Why would you rather speak to Ghislaine Maxwell and send her to a minimum security prison spa camp? By that. It's a question that many of their victims asked. So let me go to Virginia Giuffre's brother, who's kind of taken the mantle to speak forward since she's no longer with us, to talk about how this is affecting so many of the victims, because that's where it then goes down to. And it's not just the Epstein victims. They're the big named ones that are associated with this huge child sex trafficking ring. But this goes to so many victims that are from somebody's boss down the street, some coach somewhere. It's rampant is what we're discovering, which I think we always pretty much knew. We just didn't care. So here's Virginia Giuffre's brother.
I think we look at something like transparency and they're creating this perception of transparency, but reality is it's not there. And I think what this is doing is it's showing our government, it's showing the American people that we will not back down, that you can't just shove this underneath the rug. You can't, that will no longer be suffice. Like we are asking for real action. We're asking for real change. And the truth is it empowers us. It empowers us to keep going forward because there is real strength in numbers, and we will not back down until we see some sort of justice. I think
that's one of the main purposes here. There's the strength in numbers. It's hard for you to deny that this many folks have the same story. They went after Virginia Giuffre and said, well, look, I mean, come on, it's just one woman who's alleging all these things, even though everything she was alleging kind of panned out. She was the one who also accused the prince from Britain about his involvement. And then, he kind of had to skirt away. And it never picked up too much steam even after that. It took this. It took then this Trump guy running for office and saying he's going to get to the bottom of it all before he then got real hushed mouth. And then the FBI and the CIA the FBI and then the Department of Justice all got real scared every time people brought this up. So last video here, NBC News spoke with a group of the victims. And they had some things to say about the way that this administration has taken this on. And again, you're either on their side or you're on the side of the bad guys. Whether or not you believe Trump is on the side of the bad guys, he's going to show you which side he's on. But here's victims versus who we knew were the culprits. Maxwell and Epstein. Here's their story.
Show of hands, who would like to see President Trump definitively rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell? Every single one of you.
Yeah.
Marika, are you frustrated he hasn't done so yet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just toying with the idea is an insult.
What would you say to the president if he could hear you right now about this, about the potential pardon, about the case, about all of this that's in the ether right now?
Would ask why he's putting so much attention on convicted criminals and why he seems to value them more than us.
Does anybody else have thoughts on that? Lisa, General?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say it's so big right now because this administration ran their campaign on this. These were promises that they had made. And if you're in that level, in that capacity, it's your diligence, it's your duty to do what your constituents, the American public is asking you for. So that's all we're asking.
And it's not just one side or the other. This is a nonpartisan issue. Everyone is asking, even his base is asking.
If this isn't the biggest mask off moment for our general society, again, internationally, I don't know what else really is. Because once the cornering happens, because there's enough people paying attention and demanding answers, and the answers just keep not making sense, then they have to actually do something or say something. So I'm really curious to see what is said and what's done. I want to see the responses from Mike Johnson. I want to see the responses, which should be comical and clownish, from the President of the United States, from Pam Bondi, from Kash Patel, who again before he came in said this all has to come out, from Vice President J.D. Vance, who's already aspiring to take the role of president. I'm waiting to see what they can now say in response, besides just a flyover to try and distract from this. Man, I'm gonna have so much editing to do today, you guys. I'm gonna have so much editing to do today. Crazy. Just, a little bit of that. This came across my attention. Hold on, you guys. For those of you guys who were here, maybe didn't see how long we've been doing this. I came on super early at about 10:30 Eastern time, to where the 10 Epstein victims came forward and spoke with these Congress folks out in front of the press. They answered multiple questions for quite a long time. They went for an hour and a half. We rolled us right into this normal watch party streaming hour that I have. And I was a little bit discombobulated. I didn't know it was going to take that long. I was in the middle of preparing for this whole hour. And instead, I watched that with a couple hundred of you guys that sat in and watched it with me to see exactly how it unrolled, because I really think it's important for us to see how the denial nature of our country is exhibiting itself. We've denied so many of our wrongs, from the original wrongs of enslaving people. We just deny it and then move on. But it doesn't go away when you just deny it, because the descendants and the people who are the victims and survivors of these things are still here. So we're seeing it, and it's about time for a change of mindset here. Even folks who had nothing to do with it, our mindset has always been, yeah, there's some bad guys out there. Yeah, some sexual assault happens. Yeah, sure, but what was she wearing? Yeah, but you know what? Is she really telling the truth? When we're already having, the whole trial in the public opinion, do we really pay attention to whether or not she's telling the truth? Do we really pay attention as to why so many predators become predators? It's our society. So, same way we want to fix it when it comes to the gun problem the Republicans talk about, instead of actually addressing the gun problem. Maybe we should address how our society sees humans as some being inferior and worthy of just being sex toys, which one of the victims said that's how she was treated, a human sex toy. And the reasons why so many of us who don't even involve ourselves in the disgusting part of it are willing to go, oh, well, that mindset has to change. I'm hoping that'll change it. And I saw someone earlier point out Dan Bongino. It's about time now, Bongino. Now you can come forward. Whatever it is that's been bothering you, bro, whatever it is that had you in that riff with Cash Patel and Pan Bondi and all, specifically Pan Bondi, it's time to come forward, bro. It's now time to come forward. Okay. I didn't look too deep into this, and I'm curious how many of you guys really know much of the backstory behind it. I do know the players here. This is about Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer. Owen Schroyer, I guess, is a longtime personality on Alex Jones InfoWars. I'm not sure if he was a former producer and turned like host, but he started hosting, has his own stream. The one thing when I first heard mostly about Owen Schroyer was at the beginning of this administration when Donald Trump came in, Elon Musk came in, and they partnered in destroying the government from the inside out, allowed the virus that is Elon Musk to get into all of our systems and then take and rip apart and call all fraud, waste, and abuse. And one of the first things that they were partnering up on was having specific, only certain kinds of foreign workers come in and do many of these tech jobs because, as Elon Musk said, there are a bunch of idiots here in America. They don't know what they're doing because our education system sucks. And there was specific kinds of visas that they wanted to have. Owen Schroyer was critical of that. Again, InfoWars guy, he was critical of it, and he started getting banned on Twitter blatantly and straightforwardly. Elon Musk even went, I think it was him and the crazy lady who's controlling Donald Trump. Damn it, I'm blanking on her name. But they were banned on Twitter, and they started going, wait a second, I think these are the bad guys. Owen Schroyer has now split from Alex Jones because Alex Jones cannot quit Donald Trump. And apparently Owen Schroyer since then has been getting more and more critical of Donald Trump, of our genocide in Gaza, and our support monetarily, politically for Israel's war on innocent Palestinians. So there's this show on InfoWars. Let me open this up. There's this show on InfoWars. Like I said, you guys, I'm sorry. This is kind of a ragtag version of my hour because this is my setup happening as we're already doing it. So give me like 30 seconds. This will all be up in a second. But Owen Schroyer is leaving InfoWars, and Alex Jones is none too happy about it. So Alex Jones pulled in Alex Jones. He rolled up on the stage of a show, and he talked about it. Hold on, it's about to start. Hold on, this guy goes for a couple minutes. I wanted to edit this down, but again, I didn't have any time. Here comes, watch. Now it's thinking again. Hold on, here we go. InfoWars show. Here comes Alex Jones.
And ever, it's not going to end too well.
I'm here to censor.
Oh no, he's here. We've crossed the line.
You should launch a new independent show and claim that I censored you for years and get 1 million viewers and betray me. And you're allowed to lie about me any way you want.
You know I love you.
No,
look. Let's reject the let's reject the grabbler.
This is a. I'm using this as a case point. You understand that? Mm-hmm. How much have I come in and censored you over the years?
Yeah, not enough, frankly. I say some
we
things
miss
I shouldn't
you.
be saying.
Have I ever censored you?
Never once. Literally never once.
Hey, if you want to quit, have a publicity stunt and lie about me, I forgive you, okay?
Well, that's
I know. I'm just saying I expected. Hey, David Knight did it. Owen's done it. And I tell you, I was taking the high road until I actually started watching it. And it's like Anakin Skywalker's become Darth Vader.
Can we sing a song?
Hey, when I go on the air, I'm letting you have it, Schroyer. You stabbed your brother in this operation in the back, and you're a fucking liar.
Can we sing a song?
Fucking asshole.
Can we sing a song?
Shit.
We're gonna take a little break here. We're gonna sing a song. I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murdering scum, running giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking.
So I don't know who those other two hosts are on InfoWars there that Alex Jones ran up on and decided to direct. He had started with a little bit of a sarcastic approach, saying, "Did I censor you guys?" Because apparently that's what Owen Schroyer is pointing out, how he got manipulated and controlled, I guess, Let's listen from him himself. This is what Alex Jones was responding to. This is one Owen Schroyer, who's decided to leave InfoWars and I guess do his own thing, and Alex Jones feels betrayed.
You probably noticed that I had not been hosting the War Room a lot this month. And, you know, Alex had been coming into my show and talking about how I'm negative and calling me a pessimist and all this other stuff, which is fine. You work for Alex, you're going to get hit with it a lot. Alex is not easy to work for, and that's fine. You know, that's okay. But, okay, he says I'm too negative. He says I'm a pessimist, whatever. I'm too anti-Trump. So I just said, all right, you know what? I'll just take some time off. I'll just disappear. And if Alex thinks I'm too negative, then maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm too negative now. Maybe I'm too much of a pessimist now. Maybe I'm too anti-Trump now. Whatever his issue was when he kept coming to the show, telling me I'm too negative, saying I'm a pessimist on his show, you probably noticed that
it's like the guy was looking for some level of freedom to get away. And he was pointing out some of the issues that then happened. It's the same one. And what he ended up then doing was parting ways. But some of the things that he was beginning to say is what it was that pissed off Alex Jones just so much. I believe this is one of those things. You may have even seen this covered on TDR. That's how crazy Owen Schroyer has gone, apparently. I'm sure in only probably some realms. I don't know where he stands on many issues, but apparently this is where he's gone. He's gone so woke that you can't keep ignoring the obvious reality in front of us when it comes to this president. This is one of the things, I guess, that had Alex Jones not very happy with Owen Schroyer.
Trump's age and health is gonna become a big story. And I will just say this, he's wearing more makeup than he normally does, including on his hands now. He's wearing makeup on his hands for whatever reason. So things are just getting weird. And I just don't understand why President Trump would do this. It doesn't make any sense to anybody. Like, do you really want us to start talking about what else is going on in the administration? Do you really want us to start talking about Howard Lutnick and his relations with Epstein and being his neighbor?
Uh-oh. So this crosses all kinds of storylines. Now, Howard Lutnick, he brought up, and how he's best friends and neighbors with Epstein. We just talked about Epstein for the first 40 minutes. 40 minutes of this hour and another hour and a half before that when these victims were speaking out. This web potentially crosses so many different people. And apparently Alex Jones doesn't want his folks that he's calling now this guy a backstabber and used him for to keep talking about it. I don't know where their backroom deals were. I don't know their conversations, so I'm no authority on that. But it seems like they now have these differences of opinion. And now that Schroyer has some enlightened thoughts, I guess we'll call it, Alex Jones wants nothing else to do with him. He either quit or was fired. It's one of those lines that people are discussing over and over again. But from just on the top there, you guys may have seen him interrupt. He said he's going to talk about it more on his show. And bro, he definitely did that. Maybe I can show you guys that a little bit later. I was in the middle of putting that last part together. But as I mentioned, this was the beginnings of Owen Schroyer's awakening when he was banned on Twitter. And now we've gotten to this point.
Immigration, which of course Elon Musk is for. Now, if I was to think Musk was behind this, which I'm not saying I do, but we have to look at things practically. We're talking about a man who employs thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. And if he can employ people from foreign countries and pay them half as much for double the work, I mean, folks, we're talking hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars potentially at stake here just for Elon Musk. And who knows who else could be in a similar situation, dealing with foreign workers, H-1B visas.
And we're going to close the border, and we're going to get the crooked ones out, the bad ones out, and we're going to let a lot of people come in, because we need more people, especially with AI coming and all of the different things, and the farmers need, everybody needs.
Even O1 visas, which is just another tier, another level, but which would basically be what Musk is under, or maybe was under. But do you see what I'm saying? So follow the money. Who benefits?
He was beginning to see it then, and I guess the split has happened. And again, I never really listened to Alex Jones. I started figuring who Schroyer was at that point, but this is the reason why I want to bring this up. He was discovering that right at the beginning of this administration, this next level of it, that this is all about oligarchs controlling Donald Trump, and Donald Trump giving them what they want, him making the $5 billion, I think is what they now are saying, that his family has raked in as president, using our country as a piggy bank and taking more from us, extracting all of our resources and giving it to them, as our rights are taken his way too. This is crossing over, just like the Epstein stuff. This is not crossing over into creators and content creators and political talkers and online networks, where divisions and splits keep happening. And this division and split then happened to the point where Alex Jones was falling apart over this guy then having his own thought process and different approaches, which I'm sure he's still plenty conservative, but he's now seeing the way that things are run, and he doesn't trust everything that these guys will tell him. And for some reason, Alex Jones is still on that. And what's left to find out, I guess, he'll reveal is why. I'm not saying Schroyer really knows why, but I just think this country is hitting it's hitting some walls here. And I think it's going to get a lot more uncomfortable for a lot of people. And you'll see some people begin to tell more truths, and other folks that you didn't expect continue to tell more lies. That's all. I just I think it's about to get real here, and maybe I'm overreacting. I'm just reading I'm just reading the winds. So thanks, you guys. 10 minutes until the damage report comes back. I've been on for like 2.5 hours now. I'm tired. I don't have any water. I'm tired of talking. But guys, check out the previous hour and a half's worth of the Jeffrey Epstein victims that spoke up, came forward. I was watching that. I'm going to try and cut those moments that I think were some of the most powerful ones there to put up on the watch list later. For those of you guys who didn't get the notification that we started super early, I'm glad you guys came in. And now, again, if you guys like what I'm doing over here, go ahead, share the stream, let people know what we're doing. Like, subscribe, keep those numbers going. Did you guys know that we're at 1.4 mil subscribers now? We were at 1.3 when I started doing this. Isn't that crazy? You guys are actually subscribing. This is good stuff. Continue to let people know what's happening. Thank you, Bubba. I'm going to try to hydrate. It's been tough. But thank you, Michelle Caban, for the super chat. I appreciate you as saying, no, you're number one, Michelle. You're number one. I'll be back on tomorrow. It'll be a lot more coordinated, hopefully. But I want you guys to check out some of the things that happen. This is a huge day with the exposure of some of these elites that are part of this child sex trafficking ring. And I do think it also leads to some of these divisions that are happening, even to the smaller realms of the Alex Joneses of the world that maybe all of us don't pay attention to. Our world is changing, bro. And maybe tomorrow I'll talk about it. This trio of world leaders, and Vladimir Putin, Xi of China, and Kim Jong-un, they're coordinating this trio of leadership with this military a show of power and force of this exchange from the West always being this leader in the world, because we've allowed so many divisions and hate and suppression of people's rights in this country. It's devaluing it here. This facade of what it is that we've always said we are is changing, and it's changing quickly, just as fast as the guy that's in the White House is facilitating that change. Pay attention to what he's doing, and pay attention to the rest of the world. We're all affected by it. We are not isolated in this world, despite how much we've been told that our entire lives. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, Modi and all of them. You're right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to try and get all these things up today. Look out for me. If you have anything you want to let me know happens or did not happen, or mistakes I made, or just props, come find me on Instagram too. Jayar Jackson. You guys can see me there. I like to respond as many of you guys as I can. We'll see you guys tomorrow. See you later.